The old train depot sat quiet under the red Texas sky, its wooden planks groaning softly as the evening wind rolled through. Dust swirled around the tracks where the last train had just pulled away, leaving behind nothing but echoes and a forgotten figure, a young woman standing barefoot, her dress torn, a satchel clutched tight against her chest. Her eyes were swollen from tears, but her face held something stronger than despair, defiance. She had no name to call, no family to turn to, and nowhere to go. The man who'd promised to take her west had abandoned her without a word, disappearing on that train like smoke vanishing into twilight. For hours she stood there, staring at the empty rails, until the loneliness became unbearable. Then in the distance, the faint sound of hooves broke the silence. A lone rider approached, his shadow stretching long under the dying sun. He was a cowboy, tall, rugged, with the kind of calm that came from years of storms and solitude. His horse slowed as he neared the depot, his eyes narrowing as he saw her standing there, fragile but unbroken. "You lost, ma'am?" he asked, voice low and steady. She looked up, lips parting, but no words came out. Her throat was dry, her heart pounding in her chest. "No," she finally whispered, though she knew it wasn't true. The cowboy dismounted, tying his horse to a post. "Looks to me like you are," he said gently. "Where you headed?" She hesitated, gripping her satchel tighter. "Nowhere, I suppose." He studied her for a moment, the dirt on her hands, the weariness in her eyes, the tremor in her voice. "You got a name?" he asked. She lowered her gaze, shame burning through her chest. "Not anymore." Something in those words made his heart twist. "Well," he said after a long pause, "everyone's got a name, miss. Maybe you just forgot yours for a spell." He offered her water from his canteen and a biscuit from his saddlebag. She ate slowly, glancing at him between bites. He didn't press her for answers, didn't pry or pity. He just sat there beside her on the depot steps, watching the horizon fade from gold to violet. "Name's Luke Bennett," he said finally, breaking the silence. "I've got a small ranch up north. Not much, but it's honest. Could use an extra pair of hands if you ain't got a place to go." She blinked, startled by the offer. "You don't even know me," she said softly. "No," he agreed, "but I know what it looks like when someone's been left behind. And I don't leave folks behind." That night, under a blanket of stars, she rode with him toward the Bennett Ranch. The wind brushed against her face, carrying the faint scent of sage and wild earth. She didn't speak, but she listened, to the rhythm of the horse's hooves, to the quiet steadiness of Luke's voice when he spoke to his horse, to the sound of her own heart beginning to hope again. When they arrived, he showed her the barn, the fields, the soft light glowing from the cabin window. "You can rest inside," he said, pointing toward a small room by the kitchen. "Ain't much, but it's safe." She stepped in, touched by the warmth and simplicity. For the first time in days, she felt the weight in her chest ease. That night, she whispered to herself, "Safe," and fell asleep before she could even dream. Days turned into weeks, and though she said little, her presence began to change the ranch. She tended to the animals, cooked meals, and sang quietly to herself when she thought no one was listening. Luke noticed the way her eyes softened when she smiled, the way she looked out at the horizon, like she was searching for something she'd lost long ago. One evening, as they worked side by side fixing a fence, he asked, "You remember yet?" She frowned, puzzled. "Remember what?" He smiled faintly. "Your name." She looked down at her hands, then shook her head. "No. Maybe it's better forgotten." He set his tools aside and leaned on the post, watching her. "Maybe, but names mean something, miss. They tell the world who you are." The next day, a storm rolled in, fierce and unforgiving. Lightning cracked across the sky and rain pounded against the earth. The barn flooded, and one of the horses broke loose in the chaos. Without thinking, she ran into the storm, calling out, trying to calm the terrified animal. Luke went after her, his heart racing as he saw her struggling against the wind. Together, they managed to lead the horse back to shelter, soaked and breathless. When they finally stumbled inside, Luke caught her by the shoulders. "You could have been killed," he said, his voice trembling more than he meant it to. She looked up at him, eyes glistening. "You told me not to leave things behind," she whispered. For a moment neither spoke. The thunder rolled on, but between them there was silence, warm, alive, and fragile. When the storm passed, the world felt new again. The next morning, as sunlight spilled over the wet earth, Luke found her sitting on the porch, cradling a small flower she'd plucked from the soaked grass. "You ever think about what you'd want to be called?" he asked softly. She turned to him, a small smile on her lips. "I used to dream someone might give me one," she admitted. "Someone who saw me as more than where I came from." He took off his hat, rubbing the back of his neck. "Then I reckon I'll do just that," he said. He looked her straight in the eyes, those eyes that held pain and fire all at once. "You look like a grace to me," he said quietly. "Because that's what you are, a reminder of it." Her breath caught, tears spilling down her cheeks. No one had ever named her for kindness before. She reached out, trembling, and touched his hand. "Grace," she whispered, testing the word. "I think I like that." From that day forward, she was Grace Bennett. The nameless girl from the depot had become the woman who found her name, her home, and her heart all in one place. And every evening, when the sun dipped low and the fields glowed like gold, Luke would look at her and say softly, "I know yours now." If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel for more heartwarming cowboy stories of love, redemption, and second chances. Every story reminds us that no one is ever truly forgotten. You just need someone to call your name.